Sam, thanks for jumping on the show again.
Thank you, man. Thanks for giving me the opportunity to talk about myself again.
Sam, you've been shot at, potentially nearly blown up, and spent months at war.
Mm-hmm.
Out of all of this, what is the one moment in time that I guess really stands out for you?
I think we'd come back from a patrol. One of the guys had been killed on that patrol, and we were all at the the fob together, and we were all stood around having this moment of like, what the heck has just happened? And we had almost like a bit of a memorial service. But because you're still at war, you still got a job to do, and you've got to go out and patrol the next day. It was kind of like that moment, and then back to work, which is very, very surreal because you're working with these guys so closely. They're almost like brothers. One of them's just been killed, and you haven't got time to sit and mope around and mourn for weeks, months at a time. It's literally back to work the next hour, and so that stands out to me. Just the harshness of war.
Mm-hmm. Just give people a little bit of context then about your career and why you were at war then as well. I know there'll be some people who've come over from a previous podcast and we did an episode a lot about your journey in the Royal Marine Commandos.
Yep.
But yeah, to give people a little bit of a background.
Well, not a very patriotic story. You know, a lot of people say like I joined the Marines for the Queen and all that. I basically joined because I was at Watford Centre of Excellence till I was 18, didn't quite make it. And I just wanted to challenge myself to like my absolute limits. So I was looking at all my different options. I had an offer to America for a scholarship, but I sort of fell out of love with football. And the Royal Marines gave me that opportunity to test myself again. You know, I thought I'd failed at football, so I was like, right, where can I prove to myself I've got what it takes as a man? I've got what it takes to go and be a man, basically. And the Royal Marines at that age gave me that opportunity. So I joined the Marines at 19, went to Afghanistan when I was 21. I look back now at 35 and I'm like, what? I don't know what the heck I was doing at the time, but it sounded like a really cool adventure. And that's what it was for me at the time. You know, I didn't have a wife, didn't have kids or anything like that. I just wanted to test myself as a man, really.
I was going to use the word interesting. That's definitely not the right word to use, but it's maybe convenient that you brought up that story at first, because I actually want to touch on, I guess, death a little bit, because I think it's something that even me thinking upon that has changed the way that I think and the way that I view things in the future. Does that still impact you today, or how has that, I guess, shifted your priorities, or whether do you have a higher appreciation for life after going through that kind of experience?
It's a good question, man. I think what it's done for me is it's dampened like stress response in a way. So like people will get really stressed about things that I would find quite minute. I don't mean that in a patronizing way, but it's like the house is messy, or, you know, this has gone wrong and stuff. And it's like, when you've been at that level of operation in a stressful environment where death's around you, your next step could be your next, you know, could be your last. It's very hard to then get stressed about the little things. And so I find that quite frustrating, in the house especially. But yeah, it definitely gives you, I mean, I'm reminded of a guy that I served with, and again, just out of respect, I don't want to share names, but he was exactly where I am now. He was 35 years old. He had 3 daughters. He's out in Afghanistan, you know, and he died out there. He gave the ultimate sacrifice for the country. And I'm like, I'm sitting here thinking, I wouldn't go to war right now in this position, you know? Like, what a brave man, what a man of honor that man was. And I'm just
in the position of having a family and children and wife.
Yeah, he's exactly where 35, 3 daughters. And I'm like, it would have to be something that I really, really believed in to go out and risk my life in that way. So, you know, like I look at men like that and I'm like, wow, proper man of honor that I got to serve with. So I value my life every single day. I value the freedom we have that is definitely built on the sacrifice of others, you know, and yeah, like, you know, many people had tough lives so that we could have an easy ride, you know, and I'm definitely a partaker in that easy ride.
I mean, I think about death even quite often now, and there's been a lot of research that shows that people who think about death often report higher meaning in life, stronger purpose, and clearer priorities. I experienced or witnessed death when I was in the police many moons ago, when I was on Merseyside, specifically doing like my specials training. But even me, just I think thinking about my own death and life, I think people think of it as quite morbid. But when I think about it now, I think it just makes me realize that time is finite and the decisions that I do make have an impact. And I think that's why I keep it front of mind. Not so much the death that I've seen in the past in the job. That obviously has its meaning. It had an impact on me at the time. But I think thinking about my own life and what death means to me and how time, especially I guess now in the period of life, I guess I'm wishing both our lives were here, but it occurs a lot quicker as you get into later life as well.
Are you calling us old farts, basically?
in nicer words,
Yeah.
Sam, yes.
Yeah, no, definitely, mate. What I found really striking recently, obviously, Diego Jota died. And, we saw it was obviously a tragic incident. He just got married and all that. And, it was really terrible and the whole city was mourning. But on that same day, about 70 people got killed in Gaza. And it's crazy, isn't it? It's just crazy striking. Like death's all around us at all points. Every single one of us knows someone who's died, family member who's died. Yet it feels like it's such this distant thing. It feels like it's so far away. I think Hollywood has made it such a removed thing.
Do you think it's a Western culture thing as well that we're
100%
with it?
100%. Yeah, it is. And I wonder why that is. I think we live such distracted lives, don't we? We're all on our phones all the time and we're just distracted by everything around us, that very few people, like you've just said there, sit and reflect on life and death. That's actually quite a rare thing these days. Not many people are doing that. They're normally just looking at cat videos on TikTok.
Yeah, it's definitely, I mean, just even two examples within Buddhism and Christianity, it's definitely thought on and looked on and reflected on a hell of a lot more. Something that we'll speak a little bit more about in the podcast. But yeah, it's just an interesting dynamic, I think, and it's something that I've spoken about before in this podcast, and I actually actively would recommend people to do is just think about it. It doesn't have to be something that you think about for hours upon days or whatever, but even if you're journal at the moment, it could be something that you journal about, something that you think about, something that makes you reflect about how precious time can be. But speaking of time, me and you have spoken previously about when you signed up for the Royal Marines, when you were...
I think I signed up when I was 18. I joined when I was 19.
Yeah. At that point when you had signed up, how long had you been in for? Was it 13 years? You were in the...
When, sorry?
Were you in the Royal Marines for 13 years?
I did 5 years full time and then another about 10 years reserves.
Can you just explain to people what the difference between the two?
Yeah, so when I was full time, obviously that is your full-time job. You're there at every beck and call. If they ring you at any point, you have to come in, etc. And then one day I was in one day I was full-time and then the next day I basically transferred into the reserves, where it's a lot more on your terms. You have to do a certain amount of time a year, but you're more of a volunteer. And so I left in 2014 and went into the reserves. And then I did another 10 years or so in the reserve, sort of loosely, because I had my own things going on. I just sort of would jump in and out when I needed to.
Did you feel ready at that point to leave, or is there, even still to this day, do you think there's times where you think about being back amongst it and you miss certain elements of it?
100%, mate. I think Afghan had finished for the Marines when I left, which was one of the main motivators for leaving. And I thought I was ready to leave, but then that first 9 months when I left, I was like unemployed and I really struggled with Civvy Street. And I'd only been in for a short amount of time compared to some lads, and I felt like an alien. It felt like my identity being stripped from me as well. Because like one day I'm like a Royal Marines Commando, and then the next day I'm just another bloke walking the aisles of like Aldi or whatever. And like that green beret becomes, they make it into such like this thing that is like the green beret. It's the be all and end all. And when that gets taken from you, you kind of like your identity's stripped. And so I really struggled for that first 9 months coming out of the Marines.
That's interesting. I mean, with identity as well, and something that I've been reflecting on, and I guess that's maybe even why you felt that way for the first few months after being out, is I've really been thinking about, am I loved for what I do or who I am? And I guess for a long time, you're respected and loved for what you do. You are a Royal Marine Commando. You wear the green beret, and that's all that you know. And then you leave that position, and he's like, "What am I loved for now?"
Yeah, exactly.
How do you find new identity and purpose after that? And do you think it's something that many people struggle with when they leave?
I think many do struggle with it. If you look at a lot of homeless people, they are like veterans because of that identity crisis. I was a Christian before I joined, so that was where my real identity was rooted in, which gave me massive grace when I left to remind myself of that. But you're exactly right. Like, you know, you realize when you leave, or when you come out to say the public eye or whatever, like you realize actually most of the people who like spent time with you or cared about your opinion actually just cared the position about the position you're in rather than the actual person. And so I think that's human nature. I think we all do that, don't we? Like, you know, you look at Ronaldo, like if Ronaldo walked in a room, we'd all be in awe, but in like 30, 40 years time, we'd be like,
who's next?
Yeah, exactly. And so I think like never kidding yourself that that's the truth. You know what I mean? And I think knowing your true identity is so important. Your identity is not the things you do or the beret you wear or the podcast you're on or any of those things. Your identity is deeper than that. And those things are external things.
I guess amongst men, one of the things that we value is status. And I guess that leans into that quite nicely. I mean, this even happens in the industry that we both work in, the fitness space, is that there's always going to be younger, fitter, better looking people that come along. And I think that's why we were having this discussion before about you need to think about not only what you say, but what you do, because there's so many people based on things that they say now. There's no real original opinions anymore. Everything's been churned out or spewed or changed in some way. And it's very rare do people actually have actual opinions. We're influenced by so many things that we see on a day-to-day basis. So I think it's difficult, man. But one of the things on that as well, people talk about, you know, this unbreakable bond that happens between Marines and this brotherhood and camaraderie and this really tight relationships. Is this something that you experienced when you were in the Royal Marines Commandos?
I think, like when you're out there, 100%. But what also happens too is you become like quite callous. So like because you're moving around all the time, you're going to different units and you'll be like bezies with someone. You'll live with someone for like 6 months in the same room. You're doing everything together. You're training together. You're obviously potentially going to war together. You live together. And then one day they'll get moved or you get moved and you never see them again. And you kind of just like accept it. And then you pretty much never speak to that lad again.
After building such a strong relationship.
Yeah, so you become quite good at decompartmentalizing stuff, which is obviously perfect that's what they want out of soldiers. You know, that like one day you can see loads of death and then the next day you just like crack on or whatever. They want you to be quite calloused. So in some regards you build like these really close-knit friendships and these like brotherhoods. But on the other hand, like I could walk away from a lad and like never see him again and not really care.
So you become almost numb to goodbyes?
Yeah, which is not a good trait as a family man. Like, and that's something I have to like really work on. You know what I mean? Like if they're out of sight, they're out of mind. And I'm like, wow, why am I so like callous and cold? And like, it's actually something that quite affects me because I'm quite a harsh man. But actually I just know that it's like, you've been conditioned to be like that. Do you know what I mean? That's what they need soldiers to be like that. So there's a couple of guys I still speak to now from the Marines, and like if a lad walked in from now, we'd be bezies again straight away. But I'm not like sat there thinking about them or like going to visit them and stuff like that. I'm, you know, don't know if that's just me or if that's not.
No, I think there's probably a happy medium with it, because I was always one of these people who's terrible with goodbyes. We go on a 2-week holiday and not see my mum for a little bit and we cry my eyes on the plane.
Yeah.
But I've slowly understood that there's friends who, I really like this analogy. There's friends who are in your life and they're like leaves, and they're only supposed to be in your life for a season. They have impact on you, and they blow away in a storm. And then there's people and friends who are in your life, and they are like branches. They're a bit tougher. They're around for a few more seasons, but eventually they snap away in the wind, and they're not in your life anymore. And then there's some people who are like roots, and they're in your life forever, and they don't care about being seen or heard, but they're there for you whenever you need them. And when I've viewed some friendships like that, it's made it a hell of a lot easier for me when some people have fell away, even if they've had a big influence and impact on my life, just because I know that nothing lasts forever.
Yeah, it's good. Yeah, then I think when you view it like that, you're in quite a powerful position or a free position, because then you can understand that, and you don't get offended when you haven't spoken to a friend for a while or anything like that. It gives you quite like liberty. I've got guys in the background who, I met a US Navy USMC colonel out in Afghanistan. And he's like a father figure to me. He came over to England and married me and my wife.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah, and he's like a proper father to me. And I know I've always got him to fall back on. We might not speak for a couple of months or whatever, but he's always there. And he owns a ranch out in America, which we go and work on as well, which is good. But yeah, having those deep rooted. I think the thing with real friendship is that you don't have to see each other every day. And when you do see each other, you don't have to like have 4 hours of conversation. You can sit in silence and both be okay with that. I think that's the sign of real beautiful friendship. Do you know what I mean? Yeah.
Did you ever find yourself feeling alone or lonely when you were in the Marines?
Yeah, I think especially as a Christian, I struggled. Like lads would be in the we'd have 4-man rooms, and lads would be watching like hardcore porn or whatever, and I'm trying to read my Bible at the same time, and I didn't.
You don't really go hand in hand.
No, not really. And there would be that loneliness, like where I was like close with the lads, and I was one of the lads, but there was still that separation, which my faith and my principles that came from my beliefs, they grounded me in a position where I couldn't overstep the mark. So if lads were going out, we went to Vegas and things like that. Well, I didn't want to go out and gamble and go to brothels and things like that. So almost found myself on my own in the middle of Vegas. That's quite lonely when all the lads are together, getting on it and things like that. So, but I found comfort in that. I found in those times. They're the tough times when you feel alone, but actually I think they build you as a man. If you can be comfortable on your own, comfortable in that loneliness, there's great freedom in that.
I think there's definitely a difference between being alone and being lonely. Obviously, one's a choice. You choose to be alone at times, maybe at times when you're in Vegas or when you're in certain rooms with certain people, and loneliness is more of a feeling that you don't choose. It's kind of cast upon you. How did you ever have those kind of 10-minute sweaty conversations or difficult conversations with the lads, or did you keep your faith and your standards very much applicable to yourself?
As in about Christianity? Yeah, I remember one time, like, we were in Cornwall, we were at a base in Cornwall, and like one of the lads had got this video, and I've come into the grots, into the room, and all the lads are like there sort of smirking, and I was like, "You're right, lads," and they're like, "Yeah, come and watch this, we're about to watch this DVD." I'm like, "All right, what is it?" And they're like, "It's about debunking Christianity." So I'm like, "Right, okay." So I've sat down there for like an hour and a half. I'm like sat there watching this DVD where it's just like smashing Christianity, and all the lads are like looking at me and stuff like that. And I'm like, okay, more about my reaction. My reaction's going to be more important than actually how I refute these arguments and stuff like that. So I've had loads of that over the years. You know what I mean? And people are always like, don't be mean to be offensive, but I'm like, you don't need to say that first part. I'm not offended by anything. Like it's your opinion, my opinion. That's cool. We're allowed opinions. You're not going to get cancelled or like shut out my life because we disagree on stuff. I find that very immature. You know what I mean? If I say something that you don't agree with, it's like, we can't be friends anymore. That's absolute rubbish.
I think there's a lot of times that people have conversations, especially now Even mate, I even sometimes find myself doing it when I address men's mental health, and I try to catch myself doing it and almost pre-qualify myself to be like, women have these issues too, but we don't have to pre-qualify
No,
to be
not
able
at
to
all.
speak about men's mental health. And I think it's one of the things that we really need to stop doing.
Yeah. And in trying to please everyone, you please no one. And you end up just showing that you actually, you got no character, you got nothing about you, and it's, and like ultimately, like if someone says something I don't agree with and I get all offended and like uptight about it, the problem's my end, not their end. Do you know what I mean?
Mhm.
So yeah, it's all good.
You've obviously touched on faith a little bit, and it's something that I want to speak to you about. And you have follower of Jesus in your Instagram bio. Would you mind sharing with people your testimony?
Yeah. I was 19 years old. So been released from Watford Centre of Excellence the year before. My life had kind of spiraled. I was going out, breaking into cars with my mate. We were doing drugs, women, all that stuff that like, most lads or a lot of lads got into. And I've gone out to Trance Nation, which is like a dance festival at Alexandra Palace. And on the 11th of April 2009, I'm there with my friend, and we're on ecstasy, and I've either overdosed or I've taken like a couple of dodgy pills or whatever, and I'm just started like my heart starts palpitating, and I start like tripping out, and I'm like, I'm in a bad way here. I can feel myself like progressively getting worse.
How old did you say you were? Sorry,
19.
19.
And I'd been at a global gathering the year before and similar experience, but I didn't feel like, I'm going to die here. Whereas at this one, I was like, no, I'm in trouble here. So I've turned to the guy I was with. I was like, listen, I'm about to collapse. Like, I need to get out of here. So he takes me out into the smokers area at Alexandra Palace, sat down on a bench. And just out of absolute desperation, like, I just started praying. Like, I'm about to collapse here. I'm 19 years old. My life's going to finish in a smoker's area at Alexandra Palace. Like, most pathetic ending to a life ever.
OD'd.
OD'd, yeah. Sam Logan could have been a professional footballer, ended up ODing. What a pathetic life, I come from a good family as well. So I just started praying out of desperation. And my prayers originally were quite, like, petty, God, I don't want to die. I want to have kids and family and all that. And then the more my condition deteriorated, the more desperate my prayer got, until eventually I said, God, if you save me right now, I'll give my life to you. And like that, I was stone cold sober. We'd been drinking, we'd been doing drugs, everything. And in that moment when I said those words, I was completely sober. And the only way I can describe it is I looked around and I just realised how evil the life I'd been living was, how sinful it was. Everything in my life was about what I could gain. I was breaking into cars with not a second thought of how this would affect the person. I was, womanizing and all stuff. Had no respect for those women whatsoever. It was about what I could take. And in that moment, I was confronted with all that sin, this life of sin, and I repented for that. And basically from that moment on, God started changing my life. And I turned to the person I was with. I said, I think I've just given my life to Jesus.
He must have thought you were a crackpot.
Yeah.
You're still pissed, mate.
Yeah, exactly. He was still off his head.
Yeah.
But he was a Christian, but it's backslidden. And I'll never forget the words he said to me. He put his hand on my shoulder, and he still, his eyes just, still high as a kite. Put his hand on my shoulder. He said, "Come on, let's get out of here. There's nothing here for us anymore." And as he said that, he was stone cold sober as well. And we walked out of that party at about 11 o'clock, 11th of April 2009. We walked out of Alexandra Palace and never looked back, never went back to that life. And God started to change my life.
And you'd never lent into Christianity before this or really thought about it?
Same as everyone, like you grow up in school and you got a bit of, you've been go Sunday school as a kid and stuff. But I'd moved away from all of that at 13. I was playing football on a Sunday with my mates. I had no interest in it. And I didn't go out that night thinking about God or anything to do with God. I went out thinking, let's get high and get some chicks. And that when I came to the absolute desperation of my life, of like life and death, as you were speaking before, when I was confronted with death here, that's what came out. And
it's such an interesting testimony as well, because there's no real build up to it. Like you had interest
Nothing.
or people around you of influence. And this is something that I've been wanting to speak about more on the podcast as well. And I've not spoken a whole lot about it. I guess probably even before this, there's even maybe a degree of fear. I think there's definitely among modern society a little bit of, there's definitely judgment there, or even the sense of like, oh, he's fucking a bit weird when people speak about it. But I started to lean into Christianity about a year ago. I think I actually remember I was actually playing the other day some of the WhatsApp that I dropped to you, were the first person I ever spoke to about it. And my testimony is one of miracle healing. And for anybody who's listened to this and kind of views Christianity as like a bit wishy-washy bullshit, I was exactly the same. I was the least person you would ever probably think would ever lean into Christianity and, you know, give my life to Jesus, because I recorded a podcast probably 2 or 3 years ago, and there's probably a clip that I can find where I said Jesus is about as real as Father Christmas.
Yeah.
So I'm like the deep end of never lean into Christianity, and I had no experience, no one around me who was really, you know, lent into religion, went to church. The only experience I'd ever had really with religion was probably singing hymns when I was 6 years old with my legs crossed at primary school. And I'd prepped for a high rocks competition, doubles, really, really hard. My partner prepped really, really hard. I got this calf tear strain and it put me out of the competition basically. And I felt so bad that I'd let my partner down so bad. Didn't give a shit about me not competing. It was him, because he'd also put a lot of effort in and we'd spoken about it a lot. And I was like, we turned up at the weekend anyway to the competition. It was a Friday night before. And we were in Manchester and I was like, dude, I'll try and turn up just for you. But like, it's all strapped up at the moment. I was limping. And I just remember going to bed that night in a hotel in Manchester. And I was like, oh, I've got nothing to lose. I'll pray. And I basically prayed that if God, you basically take this pain away from me, allow me to compete and not let my friend down, I'll believe. Pulled the covers back the next morning, jumped out of bed, testing the calf, nothing there. Then I started running around the room, then I started bouncing around the room. I was like, I couldn't believe it. It was genuinely, the pain was gone. And some people won't believe the story that I'm telling, that's fine, because it's my story.
Yeah.
But I just couldn't believe it. I went then down to the High Rocks Arena. I was pushing the sleds, sprinting up and down, no pain there at all. Completed the whole High Rocks competition. You know how intense it is.
Yeah.
Bear in mind, the day before, I was basically couldn't walk.
It's awesome, man.
And then that was the start of the journey of me really starting to lean into Christianity. I voice noted you a couple of times and I became more curious. And then, I guess the start of this year was when I started to go to church a lot more in Australia. And like I was saying to you before we came on the podcast, I've only had positive experiences ever since I've lent into Christianity. And it's been a journey definitely so far that I'm really thankful for.
Yeah. All I know, and that's great testimony, mate. Thanks for sharing that. It's really encouraging. And yeah, mate, listen, all I know is that before I become a Christian, I was a little scumbag, and God's changed me. And so if nothing else, I live a better life for it. So even if it was all nonsense, I still win. But I've had so many experiences, like, you know, with God and seen so many things, and he's brought me through so much hurdles over the last 16 years, including Afghanistan. I can't deny it. I really can't deny it. And he's been good to me.
Do you believe that God placed you in the Marines?
It's interesting.
And do you think there was a reason for it?
Well, it's interesting. I was thinking about this recently. I applied before as a Christian.
Okay.
I become a Christian on that night, and then I was still in my application. Now, before, I should have already been in the Marines by that point, but I did my medical to join. And as I was leaving the doctor's office, I'd passed my medical. She goes, "Is there anything else for you today?" And I was like, "Well, actually, I was boxing last night and I've hurt my ear. Would you mind taking a look?" She looked at my ear and I burst my eardrum and perforated my ear. And she goes, "You're off. You can't join for another 3 months." And I was like, "Oh my word, why did I say anything?" I was like fuming with myself, couldn't believe it. But within that 3 months is when I become a Christian. So I joined the Marines as a Christian. But I was like, I mean, this is a dichotomy, isn't it? How can a Christian join the Royal Marines? You know, like thou shalt not murder and all these things. And it was like, I was wrestling with this and I was like, Lord, I need a sign. If you want me to still join, I need you to show me that I should still be doing it. So I went down for my PRMC, which was like a 3-day assessment. And I was like, God, you really need to show me if this is what I'm meant to do. And yeah, I like absolutely smashed everything. And I don't mean say this to brag. I just say this because this is what happened. I won best recruit on that 3-day testing. I got best mile and a half time. I absolutely smashed it. And I was like, right, okay, this is my sort of sign that I should still join. And it was tough, man. It was tough. It was like it's a very secular environment. That's not the right word. It's very like hostile environment, the Marines, yeah, because it's like the middle of Afghan. You know, lads you're gearing up to basically go to war, and so how do you balance that with being a Christian? That was tough, man. But definitely, I believe God called me in to do it. And there's a story when Jesus is talking to a centurion, a Roman soldier in the New Testament, and the soldier says to him, "Can you come and heal my servant? My servant's dying." And Jesus says, "Yeah, I'll come to your house." And he says, "You don't need to come to my house. Just say the word that he's healed, and I believe he'll be healed." And Jesus' response to that centurion soldier is, "I've not seen more faith in anywhere in all of Israel than this man right here." And he was talking about a Roman soldier. And the Romans were occupying the Jews at the time. Jesus didn't just say to the Roman soldier, "Right, you need to leave the military now and pursue being a monk or, whatever, like working in a church." He didn't rebuke him for being a soldier. He was a soldier. He was a godly man within being a Roman soldier. So
Is this something that you thought about when you were in the Marines, or is this something you discovered when you'd left the Marines?
Well, I was wrestling with it before I joined because I become a Christian, and then I sort of thought, well, what do I do now? Do I just like go and work in a church, or what do I do? Like I didn't know. I had no mentors who were telling me like anything, so I was just testing stuff and praying and like, okay, if it was a bit childish now, like, okay, God, if I do well in this test, like I'll kind of use that as a sign and things like that. But I really believe it was the right thing to do. And since leaving, because yeah, like you say, I was like, why did you take me through all that? Like, what was it for? But obviously, my company now, we mentor a lot of young men, and like all these experiences that I went through as a young man, I'm able to like relay on the younger generation. My real passion now for work and stuff is building young men up to be, disciplined, solid, and ideally godly men for society.
Do you believe or think that you can choose to believe in God? And the reason why I ask that is because it's I guess for people listening who haven't had any experience with religion or Christianity, it's if you say, "Oh, I believe in God," you can't just, it's like you don't wake up today and then tomorrow.
Yeah.
For a lot of people that happens unless there's an experience which changes that. I guess for some people it may be a build up of curiosity over time, or going through a particular painful experience. And you can probably correct me if I'm slightly off with this, but there's like the tree and the fruits, isn't there, of religion? God being the tree and the fruits being the what's the best way to explain it? The fruits being the way that you live.
Yeah, like what's the fruit of your life?
Yeah.
How do you conduct yourself? How do you treat people?
Yeah. I think maybe some people nowadays as well like discover the fruits first rather than the tree of this is the way that I would like to live life, and they're the morals that I would like to uphold, and maybe Christianity will keep me accountable to that. They start to discover that and become interested in it, and almost, I guess, become cultural Christians, and then they find God.
Well, people are living in the advantages of a post-Christian society. So I wouldn't say this country's Christian anymore, but we still have the values from that Christian society. So before the Romans brought Christianity in, and there was St. Alban, the city St. Alban. He was the first he was the first Christian martyr in England. But before the Romans came in and Christianity came in with them, this was a pagan country. And if you look into the morals that they had, it isn't the same as the morals we have in society now. So people will go like, yeah, I like the Christian morals, but I don't want the guard that comes with them. But they are living in sort of the they're living in the advantages of a post-Christian country still.
Well, we were speaking about this before, and I mean, I mentioned to you, there's definitely a bit of a revival going on in Australia. It seems to be, Christianity seems to be really popular and quite on fire over there. And there's something that I pulled up and I wanted to read to you, and then we can just discuss this further.
Yeah.
But the Bible Society's the Quiet Revival Report has made some remarkable claims about resurgence of Christianity in the UK. Although the percentage of Brits identifying as Christian has fallen to 39%, the church is in a period of rapid growth, driven by young adults and in particular young men, which analysed the results of a large-scale YouGov survey asking participants how often they attended church, aside from weddings, baptisms and funerals. The number of people reporting monthly attendance has risen from 8% in 2018 to 12% in 2024, but the most remarkable jump in reported attendance has been amongst Gen Zs, quadrupling from 4% to 16% of 18 to 24-year-olds. There's been an even more dramatic shift for young men, a five-fold growth from 4 to 21%. So what do you think is driving the Gen Zs to church? What do you think is fueling this quiet revival?
Well, they've grown up, Gen Z have grown up in a society, everyone serves someone, and this society serves themselves. Everything is about myself, like how I serve myself. How do I get the best car, the best house with as little work as possible, the 4-hour work week, the dream. And what they've realized is they've got these things, or many people have got these things, and it's nothingness. It doesn't bring happiness. It brings maybe freedom, but it doesn't bring, there's no substance to it. And they've realized that they've almost been lied to, that these things don't bring true happiness. And so they've got to that, realized this doesn't bring what it thought it would bring. And they're looking elsewhere. Who can I serve? Who can I submit to? And many of them have turned to God and found, I wouldn't even say happiness, because just because you're Christian doesn't mean you're happy, but it's like a deep-rooted hope, a deep-rooted joy. You know, like I can go through like terrible circumstances.
So I think there's great faith in believing that there's going to be an end to something. And that whatever that is, or whatever the test is, isn't going to last forever. I think that's the big thing that I took away.
Yeah. And we talked about it before, didn't we? In Romans, the book of Romans, in the Bible, it says, you know, take joy in trials and tribulations, for they produce character, and character hope. And you know, and I think again, this society has tried to make everything's about comfort, isn't it? Like, again, best house, like have your nice coffee machine, your nice bed, your nice comfy routine. And actually, when you live like that, it's kind of detestable. Like, it doesn't, you know, we talk a lot about like the gym. Gym's a great place to go and test yourself and to go and put yourself in the pain cave, and you always feel better after you've been through a tough time, rather than living this life of comfort that does not bring fulfillment.
On that, I mean, I was having a conversation with a friend at the weekend, slightly off topic. There's a new podcaster. I wouldn't say he's new, but his name's Elliot. Really young podcaster coming through in the scene. Really, really great guy. And we were speaking about this. I think he'd shared a clip about how, you know, guys are going to the gym and saying like they're going to war and it's fucking like building them up, and they're going through the trenches and whatever, when realistically they're going to an air conditioned gym with they know they're going to happen to 4 sets on machines. You know, is it really serving that, or are we just really hyping things up, and what we're getting out of it isn't really that kind of battle and surge what men really think they're getting? And at the end of the day, it's a dude to go in the gym for an hour, and then all these other niceties are waiting for them on the other side.
Yeah, 100%. I think
so. The reason why I say that is because I think we used to look at men who were big, buff, tough, and that was usually due to the labor that they'd put in previous for that, and that would be telling in their physique and the way that they carry themselves and their confidence. Whereas now you look at a dude and he's just probably been in the gym for an hour, and now he does nothing else apart from prioritizing and optimizing foods, which is why I think when you look at guys composition or the body, it doesn't always equate to the things that they've maybe been through, like we viewed men in the past.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting you say that, because we'd get, at the start of Royal Marines training, you get all these lads, they're all like ripped, six packs, look like legends. I had one next to me and I thought, flipping heck, he's basically already a Royal Marine. And then you'd have another lad who's a bit chubby, a little bit out of shape, and you're like, what, how's he even got here? And then I had a lad next to me who was smashing everything, winning all the races, winning everything. And then by week 8, he'd left. And the other lad that I'm talking about, big fat bloke, he was an original and passed out as a Royal Marine Commando. And it was like, oh, body composition only sort of shows you so much. But I think like the issue we have now is that, like, you know, we don't live in every job isn't manual labor anymore. We're not having to like dig out, work hard to get food, and, you know, there's food on the shelves and stuff like that. So a lot of men work in like desk jobs and in offices and stuff like that. And so a 2-hour grizzy session or CrossFit session is the pain cave for them. It is the be all and end all for them. And, you know, obviously influencers have taken it to this like silly level where, you know, it's just like content's sake, like going to war, doing high rocks or whatever it is, like, you know, and each to their own. I don't really care. Like, you know, if that's war to you, so be it, that's fine. Like, because I could sit and be like, no, I've been to war.
Well, you have context of both, yeah.
But like, I've done one tour. There's lads who have done 6 tours who would say to me, yeah, you've only done 1 tour, mate. And then there's a bloke who's done 20 tours who would go, yeah, you've only done 6 tours. So it's like, who am I to say you going to the gym for an hour isn't really hard?
Yeah, I guess everyone's capacity for hard is different, but I don't think you can still take to the degree that the dude is a personal trainer and does nothing else all day, but apart from that 1 hour is like, what? But I do think that 1 hour can be the most significant part of someone's day. Who doesn't have a lot going for them, who doesn't have any friends, who doesn't socialize outside that 1 hour. It could be the most important hour.
Yeah, definitely.
Of the day. So I can see that why that's super important. But I guess that leads into, do you think there's value then in the way that you get food, earn money, get the car, get the house? Do you think there's value in the process that leads to that?
Yeah, honor, man. Like, I think honor's been like stripped out of society. And I think, you know, like, it's almost like people who do a 9-to-5 job now are like looked down on. And it's like, you're talking crap. Like, if a man does 30 years in the same job, 9-to-5, and he provides for his family and he raises children and he's able to provide for his family, there's great honor in that. And I'll never look down at anyone who does a 9-to-5 job. Like, you know, and it's become this, almost this like, I don't know if you've sensed it, like almost like a ridicule on someone. Like, it's like a flex in the social media society. But no, I completely disagree. And I think there's great honor in just being faithful to one job and providing. And I was talking to a first generation immigrant actually from India a couple of months ago, and they were saying they've come over. They're the first in the country from India, and they said they basically have come to the point where they're like, our lives are meaningless. We are going to sacrifice our lives, work as hard as possible to give a leg up to our children in this society. So they're just like, they work every hour under the sun. They're trying to pay off a house. They're like sacrificing their lives so that their children have got a leg up in this country. And you're like, wow, that's incredible, really. Like, and very or counterculture, isn't it? Like,
yeah, the reason why I asked that question is because I think people can make a lot of money, but then be really unhappy because of the process in which they've got there. The absolute pinnacle of that would be people who win the lottery. I think there's a statistic of a high percentage of those end up going bankrupt. I think because there's no sweat equity, there's no adversity, there's no sacrifice in order for you to achieve that. You don't really value what you've got. And I think it's the same thing with OnlyFans and with porn and real quick means of making money. You never have this bank of evidence of all the things that you've been through in order to get there. So you never really value it.
And this is a principle in Christianity. So it says you should never let a new believer be a leader, because they would be puffed up with pride. And so it's this white belt mentality that we've lost in society. We've got a lot of lads becoming Christians now, but within 2 months they've started preaching and things like that. And it's like, no, you need to sit and be a white belt and learn from those who are blue belts, purple belts, brown belts, black belts, and sit at the feet of those people who have been there and done it and learn. And so we've lost that, haven't we? That's why I love BJJ, because like you get exposed. A white belt can't come into a gym and start gobbing off because you're going to just get battered.
Yeah.
So like it's the experience and the level of like, this person's been here for 2 years. You can't say anything to him. You need to sit at his feet and listen to him.
Yeah.
And I love that about fighting. So we've got an organisation called Men for God. Me and my mate, he's a Royal Marine as well. And it's a Christian organisation, but we teach Christians how to fight and train them up and stuff. And it's exactly that. We have that like where you sit at the feet of those who are better than you and you learn from them, and you learn from those who are more experienced in the faith. And you just shut your mouth and listen.
Well, we live in a world where no one's better and we're all equal, and you shouldn't be battered down for your experience, and not equal opportunity, equal what's the opposite to opportunity?
Opinion, or are we?
So I'm for equal opportunity.
Yes,
just not the reverse of that.
Yeah, well, we're all equally of equal value, but we haven't got all
equal outcome. That's what I'm looking for.
And we haven't got equal roles either. Like people have got different roles in society. Some people sweep the streets. Some people make decisions on how the country's run. You know, like we haven't got equal roles, but we are of equal value.
Mm-hmm.
And I've just been out to Georgia near Russia for a week of wrestling, and it's very, that hierarchy within the gym system there is still very apparent. You go in there, you shake the coach's hand, who's like a 70-year-old man. He sits at the desk and everyone walks past and shakes his hand and like sort of bows to him kind of thing. And it's beautiful. And you see this like structure of order that has been lost in this society. You know, young people no longer respect elder people, and it's chaos. Mm-hmm. And that needs to be restored.
Yeah, I think sport is one of the things that it's deep rooted in. And I think that's one of the places where young men can definitely go and express themselves. But yeah, one of the reasons I really wanted to get you on is because I think you epitomize very well what probably a lot of young men lack, and that is how to lean into your masculine self. So for those young men, sons, brothers, cousins, friends, how can they find their masculine edge? What would be the starting point for someone who maybe is a young guy and they're struggling with like seeing things on social media, telling them, men are garbage and masculinity is toxic? What would be a good starting point for them to be able to lean into their masculinity?
I think the first thing is never apologizing for being masculine. And, like there's real beauty in being feminine, like a feminine woman, but in the same token, there's real honor and strength in being a masculine man. And a masculine man is a man who protects and provides, and so so we've got this word, haven't we, toxic masculinity, where people, you lord it over, and that's not what we're looking for. We were talking about before in Paul in the Bible, he says, women, submit to your husbands, but men, love your wives as Christ loved the church. Now, Christ died for the church. He gave his life up for the church. And so men, are you willing to give your life up for your wife? And so on the day that, I'm called upon, will I give my life up for my wife and children? And so that for me is masculinity. It's sacrifice. It's, I'm going to go and grind and do 12-hour shifts to make sure my kids can eat. And that's masculinity. And I think, and with masculinity, there's masculine traits, isn't there? Like, I think that every man should learn to fight, because then you're a protector. And the fact that I live at home, I am a deterrent. So like whose house is going to get broken into? My house, where I've learned to fight, I look after myself, I train, I'm there. Or the house next door where the man's not present, or there is no man. Obviously you're not going to go to the one where it's a more dangerous outcome. Mm-hmm. And so my very presence in my house is a deterrent to those who'd want to harm my family. But in terms of how does a young man pursue that, I think like staying off social media, and you go and do a 30-minute workout, which is like mediocre, and you film the whole thing for a reel. Like, get rid of all that stuff, until you've made it and that's actually your business or whatever. Like, get out there, just put the work in silence. Put the work in, sit at the feet of men that you look up to, Look around you. Who's the role models? Who do you want to aspire to? And go and sit at their feet and learn from them. Like I'm at Trident MMA in the Wirral, and we've got loads of good black belts. And I just humble myself and I sit at their feet and I learn. I'm not like trying to dictate like, oh well, I've done this in the Marines or whatever. Like no, none of that stuff means anything. When I'm there, I'm sat at their feet and I'm learning from them. So young men, if you wanna be masculine, you want to step into that masculinity, look at the men that you want to be like and go and learn from them.
I guess on the other side to that, and one thing that I think some people struggle with, I mean, even I struggle with it to some degree sometimes, is like, when are you then ready? And there's this thing of like, what qualifies me to do the thing, be the thing, take on the thing? Because how long do I spend learning in the pain cave until I qualify to be enough or be ready? And I think that's one thing that usually people who are really preparing or sitting in the trenches or doing the work, they never feel like they're enough to then go and take on the challenge. And it's usually the two opposing. It's usually the dude who's preaching, teaching online with zero experience, has the highlight reel, and then these people are actually doing the work who don't feel qualified to do it or feel like the imposter.
It's funny you say that, mate, because when I first become a Christian, I thought, right, I'm ready to be a pastor now or whatever. And now I'm actually leading my church and I preach quite a lot. I feel so unprepared. And so is it Dunning-Kruger chart of learning where, you know, the height of ignorance or the height of lack of knowledge is where you're like the height of where you think you have the most knowledge.
You're naive as well.
Yeah, you're naive. You don't realize, you don't know what you don't know. But I think it's just being humble in that. Like, you know, as we've said, you might get to a black belt, say in the faith, or you might get a black belt in MMA, in BJJ, but there's still a better black belt out there. There's still a man with more experience than you, a man with more knowledge. And I kind of like to think of it like this. I've got people who are sort of further back than me that I'm helping pull up. I've got peers alongside me who I do the journey with, and then I'm always looking to someone to learn from. So there's always three spheres of people that you can be involved in, and so you're never entirely ready, and that's fine. And having that humble attitude is great, but that humble attitude shouldn't sort of prevent you from doing anything, if that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, I also wanted to bring up another quote from a book I just mentioned to you before, and hopefully this maybe knocks onto a story that you wanted to lead on to. But it was the book Wild at Heart, by John Eldridge. I know we've both read it, and I read this at a time where I guess I was questioning my masculinity and what that really meant. And this was one of the books that, to me, I guess highlighted it really well and defined what it was and the things that I needed to do to find that masculine edge again. And this quote for me was just a great one that smacked me. And it was, "True strength does not come out of bravado. Until we are broken, our life will be self-centered, self-reliant. Our strength will be our own. So long as you think you are really something in and of yourself, what will you need God for? I don't trust a man who hasn't suffered. I don't let a man get close to me who hasn't faced his wound. Think of those posers you know. Are they the kind of man you would call at 2 a.m. when life is collapsing around you? Not me. I don't want cliches. I don't want deep, soulful truth. And that only comes when a man has walked the road I've been walking and talking about."
Yeah, that's good.
I guess it's kind of what we've just been talking about then.
Yeah.
And for me, I'd never really been through any real suffering or pain until the last 12 months. And I can get a sense and a value of what he's talking about there, because I think when you've been through something or when you go through pain, opportunity is often just wrapped in pain. And I think when you go through that, it really awakens you to your values, what you want in life, not what you've just been told that you should want, and maybe some of the bullshit that you've lent into previously to that.
It's beautiful, mate. And I think there's a quiet strength that comes with that. There's a guy in Empowered at the moment who was special forces for like over 20 years.
I know it is, yeah.
Yeah, and like most people wouldn't even sort of like notice him or whatever. He's just a guy going about doing his training. He doesn't have social media, he hasn't got a following of, you know, a million people or whatever. And I've had conversations with that man where, like, literally for 2 hours, I'm just like, I don't say anything, I just listen. and mate, and he's just got this quiet strength about him. You know, he doesn't need to prove anything to anyone. But that book is an incredible book for a young man to read. I read that in so I would have been 21. I was in the Marines, and I was been a Christian for 2 or 3 years at this point. But I was still struggling with like that identity of like, who am I? You know, that masculine question. I think a man's always asking that. Who am I? What can I do? Like, what strength do I have? What fight do I have? Or what fight? You know, what's my calling basically? So I'm wrestling with all these questions, and I was reading that book at the time. I was in an army barracks in up by Hull called Leconfield, and I'm back and forth with my pastor asking him questions. And I remember he just messaged me saying, you know, I love you. Like, is it not in like a weird way?
Yeah.
But just like, you know, I love you. Like, don't worry about these things. Like, you're a good man. And it was weird, out of nowhere, I said, how can you love me when I don't even know who I am? You know, I'm a 21-year-old searching for meaning. And he said, Sam, I like you. You're a good guy. And with that, it broke me. And it kind of sounds, I kind of feel removed from it now, but it completely broke me. And I went into the drying room, which is where we hang all our dry kit up. And I'm just like, God, who am I? Who am I? Like, searching like this. And it's one of the first times I've heard, I wouldn't say like an audible voice, but like I knew God was speaking to me. You know, a lot of people say they have visions and dreams. I don't have anything like that really. But I felt God say to me, you're not a Royal Marine, you're not a boxer, you're not a footballer, you're my son. And as he said, you're my son, something in me just completely broke, and I was laughing and I was crying, I was dancing, I was in so much joy, because all these things that I tried to fill my life with, be a Royal Marine, be a footballer, be a boxer, be a hard guy and all that, all fell away. And it's like, no, my identity is I'm a son of God. And so now I'm rooted in that identity. I can enjoy all those other fruits, but they're not the things that I find my identity in anymore. And so there's such beauty in that. But that came through that book. And that's one of the most pivotal points in my life, where all the bravado and like, you know, the this, that, and the other broke off my life.
And that identity can never be taken away from you.
Exactly. You can kill me, you can beat me, you can mock me on social media, you can destroy my business and stuff. But there's a deep rooted knowledge that I am a son of God, and that you can't remove that identity from me.
There's another conversation. We had a lot of conversations in the car, and I was trying to tame some of these because I wanted to save some. But the other thing we also spoke about, it was something that I spoke about on an Instagram story last week, and it was about how in a society where we are based on what we say and not what we do, be so honest that you're dangerous to people who live in lies. And we spoke about living your truth and being honest. How do you think this has changed for you, and why do you think this is important? Because literally before we came to do this podcast, you messaged me about how you'd made some changes in your life so that you could live as honestly and as truthful as possible.
Yeah. Well, I look at society now, man, and like, you know, we can all go, oh, ruddy society, the good old days and all that. But I look at society and I don't think we're in a great place as a country. And, you know, I'm a big believer that you don't adopt failure. So if you look at someone's gym program and the results aren't there, why would I take that program on? So I look at society and how it lives, and I'm like, it's not working. I'm not going to adopt to what society tells me is right. So I want to speak against the things that are not beneficial for society. You know, I care about this country. I care about the residents of this country. And so liberalism, living for yourself, these things have not worked. They're not working. Marriages are like over 50%, divorce rates, fatherless children.
Apart from on that, in Christian marriages, success rates are super high. I think it's like 99%.
Oh, that's awesome. I didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember someone telling me about it in Australia.
Well, I mean, that's fantastic, isn't it? So like, I look at society and what it tells us, and then I look at the results of what it's telling us and what's the fruit of that. And I don't like the fruit of that. So we homeschool the kids, for instance, and and when I write things on social media and stuff, it's not to like offend anyone. Like if I say something that's quite controversial.
Okay, what's something that you've wrote which would you say is offended people, has been controversial? Or what's one of the views that you think people would, or society would deem as controversial, or at least social media would deem as controversial?
Do you know when someone asks you a question and in that question you've completely gone blank? I'm trying to think of a good example.
Just similar,
Even
dude.
just like about Christianity being the truth. You know what I mean? I share
That offends
or
people.
abortion. So that's a massive one. I think abortion is murder. And obviously, you know, within that, you know, there's, you know, you've got medical abortion where you've got different aspects in that, but general abortion or the killing of a baby just because like it doesn't work for the parents, I think that's murder. And I don't think it's beneficial to society to kill its babies. And I think that stems from, you know, the elite, and you can go into all the conspiracies of it. But that would be a really controversial view that would offend people. I'd lose a lot of followers on that and things like that. But I haven't said it to be offensive. I'm not trying to be like, oh yeah, this will hurt that person. It's like I actually believe that it's not beneficial to anyone to kill our babies.
Yeah, I think we do that often though. I think when we don't agree with something, it's chop that person down, take him off the pedestal,
Yeah.
cancel him. That's the go-to now if it's something that we don't agree with.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty sad that we now live in a society that tries to silence people.
I've got a friend who's been a client for like 7 years, and we literally every single view we have is completely opposite. So she would not celebrate abortion, but she would be like, no, it's brilliant, you know, women's rights and all that. And we would be opposed to that, and we'd be opposed about Christianity. We'd be opposed about many things, but we're very close friends, and we can, you know, we don't agree on these things, but we can look past that because I still love that person. Do you know what I mean?
I think you've got to be very ignorant. Is it ignorant to think that you're going to agree with everything that someone says? And I think there's a lot of times that people even look up to people, and as soon as there's one opinion that doesn't,
yeah, you've let us down, man. I thought you were,
there's bound to those kind of things. And yeah, I mean, I get that, dude.
I'm wearing a Glock hat. Like this is a gun mate.
Well, I was gonna say you did rock up today looking like the dude out of what's it called, that sniper movie.
American Sniper.
Yeah.
yeah. Not intentionally. I just thought, you know.
Yeah. But dude, like just kind of moving the conversation on, because I did want to touch on just your training as well. I know people who listen to this podcast are going to be huge health and fitness enthusiasts as well. What did a week of training look like for you when you were in the Royal Marines?
Within basic training, or once you passed out?
When you passed out, yeah.
Yeah, so you do every morning. You do troop fizz at like 8 a.m.
You do what? Sorry,
troop fizz, like a PE lesson, basically. That's not a PE lesson, but you know what I mean. PE lesson. Where you do like a 4 to 6 mile run potentially, or you'd do big circuits on like the AstroTurf. I was based down at 4-2 Commando majority of the time. So you do that at 8. Go home, shower, get your food, and then you'd be back down company lines, and you do all that. But then when work is finished, if it's a chilled day, you'd be finished at 2 o'clock, and then lads would go and train, and then you might go and train again in the evening. I was playing quite a lot of footy at the time for the Marines and the Navy, so a lot of my work was based around that. But things like CrossFit got massive in the Marines. BJJ's massive, boxing's very big, rugby's big. And so you're doing all your troop fizz in the morning, which is like your military specific work.
Wonder how much of High Rocks is in there now?
Oh, it's probably pretty big, you know, yeah. And like, lads would be really good at it because there's so much endurance work. You know, that's what the Royal Marines pride themselves on is endurance. So yeah, be interesting to see where they're at. But so you do all your military specific stuff in the morning, then you go and do your individualized stuff in the evenings. But it's great, man. You've got a free gym. You can enter at any time. And I really believe like your first job as a Royal Marine is to be fit, first and foremost. Like that's it, non-negotiable. That is just like your bread and butter. Like every Royal Marine should be fit. And then on top of that, you've got all your other roles.
So how many, if you were to break down like how many hours a week you were training? Or did it vary from week to week?
It would probably be 3 hours a day.
A lot of press ups.
A lot of prep in basic. A lot of press ups, mate. We were averaging easily 500 a day.
500 press ups a day
on top of everything else you're doing. When we first started in the Marines, 100%.
Was that by choice or by?
No, you're just getting thrashed. So you've got your PE lessons again in training, but then you're getting thrashed all the time. You know, if you're 1 minute late, you're getting
punishment.
You're getting beasted all the time. We were doing like you'd get thrashings where they'd literally be like, right, we are not finishing until 3 of you leave. So you just get thrashed until 3 lads leave training. You know, it's brutal, mate. It's absolutely brutal.
But you enjoyed it? Now you've left.
Looking back, man,
yeah.
looking back, you're like, those are the best years of your life. At the time, you're like a little like rabbit in the headlights, you know what I mean? But the fizz side, I enjoyed the fizz. I was rubbish at everything else.
And you had patrol on top of that as well?
Well, when you're in Afghan, you're patrolling a lot. We were patrolling, you know, anywhere between 4 and 9 hours a day. It can be 50 degrees heat. You've got all your kit. Obviously, if you're doing like strike ops and breaking into compounds and stuff like, you know, there's a lot going on.
So your energy expenditure per day at that point, if you're getting a train session on top of that, must be fucking.
Oh, everyone come back like little skinny rakes.
What did your nutrition look like then? How were you getting enough energy?
We were on ration packs.
Oh, yeah.
It was like, but it's obviously a lot of calories, but it's not like I wouldn't touch it now. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You're out. I think we'd maybe get fresh meat once a week if we were lucky when we were on the front line. And you're just eating like crap rations and stuff like that. Yeah, I actually got my first muscle up when I was in Afghan because we literally had a set of rings and like some bastardized like dumbbells made out of concrete. Like that was all we had.
What that you'd been supplied with, or that you boys had made?
That we'd made them, and then someone had bought rings, and then I think we had a pull-up bar, and we were just making workouts from that.
I mean, that was quite good, like kind of getting amongst it and back to that gritty, shitty old stuff with the boys. Yeah.
And I remember being in the Albanian mountains, and I'm like 22, 23 at the time. Big long day of work, and I'm kind of going like, oh, should I train today? I remember looking over the camp, and there's like a 45-year-old like a sergeant major, and he was pulling a Land Rover. Like and I remember being 22 and going, what a pussy. Like, this man, he's in charge of all these troops. His day's been a lot harder than mine. He hasn't gone, oh, shall I train? He's literally there pulling a Land Rover, like as his workout. And that taught me a lot as a young man. That it's not, shall I train? It's like, I'm training. Today is a training day and I'm training, like non-negotiable. So that taught me a lot. I was humbled in that moment.
And then you got the dudes who are doing high rock saying, like going to war, pulling the fucking sled down the carpet. And he done those 2 clips together.
Yeah, but you know, like they're better than me at high rock, so I can't say anything.
Dude, yeah, I mean, I guess that when you go to train now, you can kind of reflect on those experiences as well. The one that I really want you to pull back on, because you told this story before, the most embarrassing story you had from when you were
in training. Oh mate, that like haunts me. That I like staying.
Dude, I want you to reflect on it. I want you to live it in your mind, and I want you to recite the story exactly how it was.
It's like such a cringy moment. It's the cringiest. It's the one moment I'd probably pay about 20 grand to erase it from my life. So we're in week 14, which was Baptist Run. It's called. It's an exercise. So it's a test exercise to get from phase 1 Royal Marines training into phase 2. So it's a big deal, you know, and everything's being tested and stuff like that. So we're under.
I already know it already, so that's why it's making me laugh.
We're under a lot of pressure, and you know, it's been hammering it down for days, and we're sleeping out in the rain, and it's cold, it's wet, we're miserable, we haven't slept, we're eating rubbish food, we're getting thrashed all the time. And we've been given a task, like the other side of Woodbury Common, and we've got to get back to base, which is where all our ponchos are and everything like that. And we've got like 15 minutes, so we're all like little rabbits in headlights running. And we get to this sort of bottleneck where all the lads are like going down this like steep bank. They're all like bottled in. I'm like, lads, just jump down here. And I jump down this little like cliff, and I've gone into a bog up to my chin. I swear down, I've gone to a bog up to my chin. My weapon is completely submerged. My whole body is submerged. And I'm like, lads, get me out. And
you've gone from hero to
honestly, mate, like I've gone from like, lads, just jump down here, like thinking I'm a legend, jumped into a bog up to my eyes, or not up to my eyes, up to the base of my chin. And the lads have like had to drag me out this bog, and I'm just like an absolute like drowned rat. The whole troop is laughing their heads off. I'm just an absolute and it just went from bad to worse because obviously I'm completely. It's like not even mud. It's like pooey, like you can't describe it, and it's in everything. It's in all my clothes. It's in my teeth. It's in my
I've said this to you before. The image that comes right to mind straight away is the Vicar of Dibley thing where she jumps in the water.
Jumps in the puddle. Yeah, I wish it was a puddle like that. But like I still, everyone I think has one or two of those moments in life where you're lying in bed and you're just like, oh my word, that actually happened. But
and what did you do like after then to get
well,
washed?
again, like I was inexperienced and I didn't know what I was doing, so I made a few different errors. I should have just gone and found a lake and jumped in the lake and washed myself off, and I didn't. I tried to like wing it, and it just went from bad to worse. And I ended up in like absolute pain cave. And
how'd you wash your weapon?
Yeah, you just have to submerge it and then dry it and oil it as best as possible. But again, like mate, I'm 19. I'm like rabbit in the headlights. Like no, sorry, I was 20 at that point because I just had my birthday, and just made loads of errors. And
I bet it took a while to live that one down, didn't it?
Oh mate, I don't to this day. 16 years on, you know what I mean. I still think, oh, if I could go back and change that day. But you got the rough with the smooth. This is what I say to the lads who I mentor, because a lot of them are joining the Marines, and they'll kind of like look up to me like, wow. Like I'm like, lad, don't be impressed by me. Like look at what I've done. I've done all these mistakes in my life as well, and not everyone's cracked up the way that you always think they are. And good learning curve, man.
That's one of your funny stories, I guess. Yeah. And then on the other end of the spectrum, like, what's one of the stories that stands out, which was like, I guess for you, was what you expected the Royal Marines to be like when you were maybe close to combat or as close as you got to combat?
Well, honestly, mate, working out in Afghan with some of those blokes, like incredible. I had a boss called Tom Lucy, mate, who's an Olympian rower. I think he won like a bronze at the Beijing Olympics. Just the most solid bloke I've ever worked with, like as in good solid, not like dumb solid. And I just remember, again, I was a young man, 21. I just remember thinking, wow, I can learn so much from him. So as he was speaking, I've always been quite like, I'll look at people and I don't know what the right word is, like dissect. Like I'm looking at like how they hold themselves, their mannerisms, and what can I take from them? What can I? And he was a guy that I learned a lot from. Really good leader. He was on every single patrol. He didn't have to be, but he chose to be. Led from the front. He would give like a game plan, a mission. So he'd give us like a plan for like what we're going to do on the patrol, or if we were doing an op. But then he'd open the floor, and if anyone had better suggestions of certain things, he'd be like, "Yep, Roger, we'll do that." Had no ego in that front, and I learned a lot from him, and I learned a lot from some amazing men. So I know the Royal Marines are held in high esteem, but within the organisation, there's levels as well. And I worked with some incredible guys that I've learned a lot from.
Was he the guy that you were deployed with when you were saying to me that you'd been on this deployment where you'd been shot at but not realised?
Yeah, he was on that patrol.
So what was that day? How did that occur?
Well, we were just coming back. We'd been on a long patrol, and then you started hearing like a kind of, and we were like, what the heck? And you didn't realise we'd been shot at. And yeah, like I say, by the time it had finished, we didn't realise. Because what the Taliban were doing is they'd go to like a compound, to like a farmer and be like, oi, shoot at these when they go past, or we'll burn your crops down or whatever. Yeah. So you'd have people who just like shoot at you and like run away and things like that. So it's really hard because you don't know who you're fighting. Like there's different elements. You've got the clear Taliban, and then you've got other pockets of people who, are being threatened by the Taliban and
like families and
if people if family members have been caught up in like firefights and things, and died, then because it's tribal out there. My understanding is, and I might be wrong in saying this, but I think I'm right in saying this, that if someone in their tribe died, they would have to then take revenge for that. And so, you're getting caught up in all these things and
politics and religion.
Exactly. And it's not so much religion out there because, they're Muslims, but they just get told what the village elder says goes.
Yeah.
These people can't read and write. They're not sat there like studying the Quran.
So just adherence to authority.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Did you have much experience of dealing with like other forces when you were in Afghan?
We worked with the USMC. little bit of the army took over from us. I think it was the rifles took over from us. We had like a Navy medic. Done some, not in Afghanistan, but done some exercises with like the Swedish, Norwegians, French.
Who would you think impressed you the most? Is that the right word to use?
Us.
Really?
Yeah. From what I've worked with, yeah, like the Royal Marines. That when the lads when it's like mission critical, when it's like also, you know, when you're actually on the ground, the lads I work with are amazing, mate. Top level soldiers.
What were the lads in the US?
They've got yeah, like good. I don't want to say good or bad because everyone's experiences are differently. Their equipment's like second to none. They got all the funding in the world, and they got the numbers. Yeah.
But you got on with it.
Yeah. Oh no, yeah. I love the Americans, man. I wish I lived in America. I love their attitude. You know, they're a lot more positive in my opinion. And
yeah, I definitely agree with that. A lot more a nation of optimists rather than pessimists.
They allow themselves to like dream and, you know,
express,
things like that. Whereas we're like, if someone that says like, oh, I want to do this, the British thing's like, stay in your lane, mate. Like, you know, get back in your lane. But no, I love the Americans, and yeah, haven't worked tons with them. We worked out in California with them for like 8-9 weeks, and yeah, good guys. It was mad because we were in the middle of this desert, and they came with this. They came in with this like all these vehicles, and they literally set up a city out of vehicles within about 30 minutes. Like all of a sudden, this massive like town appeared, and like these vehicles like open up into like actual buildings and stuff. I've never seen anything like it.
Just the tech, was it?
Yeah, the tech's just second to
above and beyond.
Yeah, but we yomp everywhere, so we'll carry our equipment everywhere. They'll just get Humvees everywhere.
Really?
You know what I mean? Yes, there's like real cultural differences.
Yeah.
They're all like on roids and stuff as well. Like,
is there a lot of that? Do you think in the
US there is? Yeah. But
how does that work? Do you think with drug tester? Or do you think they just turn a blind eye to it?
Yeah, I don't really know, to be honest, mate. And I don't want to
comment. Yeah,
yeah. There's some big dudes out there. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I bet. I think you see some of the pictures and stuff online, so it's always interesting to hear from someone who's been there and seen it. But Sam, thanks so much for jumping on today, dude. It's been a pleasure to have you on again. Yeah. And speak about some different topics as well, which are close to home for me, and hopefully the audience has enjoyed hearing a little bit more about. So if people want to find out more about you, dude, and what you're doing now, life outside of the Royal Marines, where can people find you, and what's your kind of main go-to and the things that you're doing at the moment?
My main business is Complete Commando, so that's on Instagram, YouTube. I think we have a TikTok account, but then my Instagram is Sam Logan Fitness. So if you want to come and abuse me or whatever, like drop me a DM and we can have a back and forth. And then I fight at Trident in the Wirral, so if you want to come and beat me up, like feel free to.
You want to meet me on a street corner and we'll scrap?
Yeah. Meet me here at 2:00 and we'll have a scrap.
Dude, again, like obviously I run the men's mental health retreats now, which is now changed from Boys Will Be Boys to Carry the Weight Club. Love to. We spoke about this before.
Yeah, I need to get on, man.
We'll try and get a collaborative
between
your business and mine, and get something done, because we both work in the men's mental health space, and I think both of our experiences together would put on a really good event. And for those who are listening, I've got another event coming up this weekend. I think this may just come out after we finish that one. But I do appreciate you coming on. And if anyone's got any questions for Sam, please drop them in the comments wherever you're watching. And again, please subscribe to wherever you are listening to, and continue to leave reviews, because it really does help. And I'll catch you in the next one, guys. Thanks, Sam.
Cheers, dude.